Centre north of Johannesburg. The leading manufacturing event in Sub-Saharan Africa aims to bring together business owners, industry leaders, government officials, capital providers and professional experts to explore opportunities and grow the manufacturing operations.
The event is held annually. For the latest on what's happening at the Manufacturing Indaba, we cross live to our economics reporter, Arabile Gumede. Arabile, what is the significance of this Indaba amidst a performing economy?
Well, as you said, Desiree, it is an interesting time for South Africa's economy itself, right? It is a time where we saw South Africa's growth really peter down to 2.2% in negativity in the first quarter of 2018. How much further can manufacturing offer to South Africa's economy? At some stage, around 13% of South Africa's economy was made up just of manufacturing in itself. So that is the key element here, and that is perhaps just finding out how we can find a level of ingenuity, shall I say, that will be able to help South Africa's economy move forward as manufacturing continues to help in some way and hopefully even provide for more jobs.
And Arabile, what are some of the major sectors represented at the Indaba?
Well, look, manufacturing in itself is obviously made up of quite a few, right? So everything from services right through to mining, right through to other permanent sectors within South Africa's primary, tertiary and secondary sectors as well. Really importantly placed here, and even talking about just the future elements of manufacturing. Now it's looking beyond the current level and the current state as to how things are done right now. And it's very, very significant that at this point that level of future thought is perhaps thought of highly. And to talk about that, Ayanda Mgadi from the Manufacturing Circle also joins me. Ayanda, thank you so much for the time. I suppose the question will be then, how does the manufacturing industry move forward from a time where there's a lot of struggle?
It's a process that is intended to be conscious, it's intentional, it's action-orientated, and it's one that is supposed to be collaborative. It's a partnership between industry, labour and government, and we have seen over the past period strong support from the DTI, economic development, and key players and key employers within the industry. It is a difficult time for manufacturing, but it is a time where we potentially could see a slight change in the growth curve. And when you look at history, in the 80s we possibly were contributing almost 24% to the GDP, and currently we're sitting at 12%. And the timing that we're in is one where we must push together through concerted effort, collaborate as we are doing through this platform, and bring manufacturing back to being the driver and the engine room in the economy. It is one where our workers are looking to us to come to gatherings of this nature and take this challenge seriously. And it's one where we're supposed to not only look at South African solutions, but look at the pressure that the international global trade is putting on the workforce, putting on the manufacturing process itself, but also even the ability to move our products to international markets. Interestingly, unlike other years, I think this year has a strong emphasis on the African continent. It is about looking at how the African continent can be an extended market for some of the consumption levels in the southern hemisphere particularly. And it is also about looking at the influence of technology under Industry 4.0, which the DTI is driving quite strongly, and looking at how that can best position the industries that we're in. I think the next 20 years is going to look back to a year like 2018 and ask us serious questions about critical decisions that we must take under the circumstances that we're in, because if we don't try to be ahead of the curve and make sure that we are responsive not only to the technological push but also to the pressures that are coming from the outside, the protectionism that we're seeing coming out of the US, and the influx of imports that is coming from the EU, we will look back at the day like this and know that important decisions had to be taken so that we can bring manufacturing back to its rightful place where it's leading the growth of the jobs.
You mentioned two elements there. Technology, one being very significant, the other perhaps of key importance is regulation. Do you feel that both are supporting the manufacturing sector to perhaps push back to getting to 20% or even higher with regards to how much it gives to South Africa's GDP?
The South African context, I think, has generally been very permitting. And what is important about the period that we're in is that we are entering into dialogue, because protectionism is really a result of a proactive government policy. And so we are very encouraged that the DTI and the Economic Development Department, ITEC in particular, have been very proactive, particularly in that period where we were dealing with Section 232, where they were saying, come around the table with us and tell us how can we assist you to maintain the production levels that you have, even grow them. And from the technology point of view, it is important for us to stay with the curve, otherwise we are going to be left behind. And so it is critical for us to collaborate not only as industry, but also as players just in the general manufacturing space. And the manufacturing circle is intended to pull together particularly the big employers to say what is common on the demand side and what is common on the supply side, and how can we best position what we are doing for the future.
You are a big employer as well as an industry. Do you see yourselves being able to collaborate, as you said, to bring back that level of employment in a sector that possibly needs it the most?
Absolutely. We will absolutely be able to do it, because I think probably for the first time in a long time in this period of democracy, we are speaking in one voice and speaking the same language of saying, how do we best retain what we have? How do we best improve capacity of the employees that we have? How do we introduce technology without displacing jobs? And how do we make sure that the local product thrives and is not displaced by imports?
And Mgadi, really appreciate your time from the manufacturing circle there. Really just taking a look at how do we move the manufacturing sector a whole lot more forward to improve it, to help it, to align it to South Africa's growth path, which of course is not just highlighted in the NDP, but highlighted just in the future growth plans as well of President Cyril Ramaphosa, as he aims to also try to attain $100 billion in investment. Perhaps this sector is one that can garner enough cash and enough money to boost South Africa further, not just in employment, but certainly also in growth. That's what it looks like from Sandton Convention Centre at present. Let's step back inside and see exactly how proceedings are faring.
That unfolds